Dylan, thanks for coming, being a part of our effort here to kind of share the story of PraXel, and we want to give people the opportunity to kind of see the heart of what we do here, and just introduce our people, and then just kind of see where it goes from there. So today we got you, obviously co-owner of the company, and just want to give you an opportunity to kind of for the world to kind of see who you are, what your heart is, and kind of what your vision is for PraXel. So let's start off with that. Introduce yourself, and then kind of talk a little bit about your role here at PraXel.
Okay, Dylan Carpenter, president of PraXel Energy, which covers a lot of different companies, underneath it. I think there's 5 total. So obviously I'm in partners with my wife. We don't have no investors, no other partners. It's just me and her. The name, we come up with that. It's actually a friend of mine. We kind of was doing some work together, and I was trying to come up with a name. This is 6 or 7 years ago, and he spouted out. He's like, "What's your kids' names?" And we got to talking. He's like, "Man, what about PraXel?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's catchy." So it's Priya and Axel, which is my little girl and boy. Yeah. So first come up with PraXel. Like I said, it's been probably close to 7 years now. Working on the road, constantly being gone. Knew that I wanted to do something bigger at home in the line industry. Always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and kind of always jumped back and forth into that. But wanted to establish something that was homegrown in London, Kentucky, Jackson County, where I grew up, for the other linemen. So the biggest thing, I had a friend, and he's actually a GF here, and he was one of the guys that had, it set in with me. Like, I'd spent most of my line career with him on the road, up to a certain point, and so I know how long he'd been on the road. And then I knew that I wanted to create something at home for these guys to be able to have, to where they didn't have to travel so much. So when I was on the road working, I was working somewhere between 4,700 and 5,000 hours a year. And I don't know if you're good at math or not, but you could do that. And it's a lot of hours, right?
Hours,
yeah. So I tried to stay on jobs where I'd done nothing but work all the time. And it was all for a bigger go. And that goal was to start my own line company. At that time, I didn't know what the name of it was. I didn't know that it would be the size it is today. Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed it's not bigger. But it's just, I never knew what really was ahead of me. I just knew there was something. Sure. So every dollar I made, I tried to save. When we was on the road, my wife was a dental hygienist. I helped put her through school for that. And then we had 2 little babies at home, and she would try to visit me, but yet still work. Sure. It was really super difficult. Yeah. It was a very hard life, living out of a suitcase and dealing with the linemen. They was wanting to go out at night or do this and that, and trying to, make sure you don't do nothing wrong, and being a good person, and just everything that comes with being a lineman on the road. But me and my wife would take every dollar we made, and we would put it back, and we'd be like, "That's a bucket truck. Sure. Oh, that's a bow trailer. That's a pickup. That's this or that." Yeah. And we kept trying to just make it work. And we stepped over into the FEMA world doing cleanup work, and it was a disaster. I'm still owed $280,000, and it took all my funds back down to zero. Sure. Then I had to start back over again and replenish that account and keep working these big long jobs of the 12 to 16 hour day jobs 7 days a week away from my 2 little kids. Yeah. I didn't get to experience the diapers. I never got to experience the first words. I never got to experience none of that stuff. I got to see it for a week at a time, or a weekend, or whatever, when she got to come visit me. But most of the time it was I didn't get to experience none of it. Yeah. So a lot of long restless nights, long days away from home for her and me. Yeah. And so once we actually got over that hump of being able to put this together, we was able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and get this company kind of functioning. And then you had the step of the insurance and everything that come with that. That was another, okay, I got the trucks. Yeah. Now I got to afford $80,000 worth of GL, and try to get that accomplished. And I knew, when we went in the storm, for our very first storm, I knew, okay, me and Kristen done the math on it. We can stay on this storm for X amount, many days, And once we get to that point, we're just going to have to come home because we don't have no more money. Right. I had no loans, had no lines of credit. I had got myself out of complete debt besides I had one, I think my house, but everything else I had no debt.
Yeah.
So I was able to put full focus towards this, or all my funds towards this, but it took every dollar I had.
Yeah.
So the very first storm, it was actually a turn and burn. We drove down and drove back. It was like a 24, 30-hour storm.
Right.
And I was like, oh, well, this worked out perfect.
Right.
Well, then the next week, we get another call, and and I'm like, oh, gosh, now we got 3 days left of funds.
Right.
Once we get to that point, we're going to have to come home.
Yeah.
It ended up being a 2-day storm also.
Right.
And then luckily, we ended up getting paid fairly quick for those storms, and it was just, a domino effect from there, and just kept working off the funds that we was making and growing. And, now we're sitting over 700 different units across the country in 7 different states. And, PraXel has grown in leaps and bounds. Like I said, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough and I need to do more and it needs to grow more. And maybe I'm not at the level I thought I'd be at this time, but, it's a leaps and bounds kind of thing. And we just take it day in, day out and do the best we can and trying to hire the right people. That's the biggest thing is getting the right people in the right places.
Yeah.
And that has the same values, people that work here having the same values as me and Kristen, and knowing our sacrifice of what we do every day, and then those people having the same, drive and motivation. You got to be around like-minded people.
Yeah.
And that helps out tremendously. So
exactly. Yeah. I think you blaze through that, right? I mean, and there's a lot of hard times, obviously a lot of good lessons that you learned through that whole experience of you guys kind of figuring out how to divide your time really well to where you work full-time job and then you figure out how to then transition into running your own company, right? And so there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. And what do you think it takes? Because there's a lot of people out there that see what we do and see PraXel here locally, and then it's in our circle of influence is growing. It seems like by the week.
Yeah.
And so, maybe what would you say is one of the most important things you have to keep in mind if this is something you want to do full time?
As a lineman.
As a lineman, starting a company like this, it just feels like it's a really hot topic, and our influence is greater, and you have people reaching out left and right, and so they're saying, hey, seeing what you're doing, Dylan, I love what you're doing. Give me some advice. If you were getting that phone call, what would that piece of advice be? Because you have that, you blazed through that whole story, and there was a whole lot of potholes that you stepped in that you probably could help other people not do. But what was that little piece of advice?
Coming from a guy that left school 2 weeks in his 10th grade year because I was mowing 72 yards a week. Yeah. I was making probably more money than my parents mowing yards, unfortunately. And I thought that, oh, well, I'm going to do this or do that. And I finally finished all that with the homeschooling process. But, I have no, background of, being like a top student in the school. I never went to college. I don't have no business degree. Yeah. All I have is motivation.
That's right.
And so every day when I don't want to wake up, I make myself get up, and I push myself every day. And, so any of these young kids that's coming up or adults that's wanting to change their life, now, if I can do it, I promise you anybody can do it.
That's
so
right.
The main thing is you got to stay focused and you got to stay motivated, and you got to wake up every day with some kind of motivation that's going to push you. That's and right. Not for another individual or for money, but for yourself and for growth. That's me. I'm not money driven, I'm growth driven. Yeah. With that comes money and everything else. Right. But I am 100% growth driven. Yeah. As far as a young kid, I don't think college is a bad thing at all, because it does have its place. I wish that I had a business degree, maybe it would have helped me. I wish I had an accounting degree. I wish I had, several other things that would have probably helped me in the long run of this company. Yeah. Luckily I'm able to hire those people now that has that, the smarts in that field. And so that helps. But, try to retain everything that you can, when you're around smart people. Right. That's a big thing. is surround yourself with good people.
That's right.
Don't, going out and partying on Friday night ain't going to get you to the next level.
Yeah.
Going out and getting drunk on Friday and Saturday and worrying about this or worrying about that or chasing the girls or chasing this or that, that's not going to help you grow.
Yeah.
If you want to get to the next level, you got to be highly motivated, and you got to be focused on what you got to have. You got to have a plan in front of you, and you got to be able to set your goals to where you can get to that and reach that.
Yeah, I love that. I think I live by that. That truth right there. What is the saying? It's like you're the sum of the 6 closest people around you or something like that. And so it speaks to exactly that. And I think it takes a humble person to be able to say, you know what, I don't know everything, and I need to surround myself with people to give me the best chance to get us to where we need to go, right?
I would love to, I would have loved to went to college, actually, looking back and learned how to do certain things. So I wouldn't have to solely rely on certain people to do it because I don't know how.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend, like in school, trying to learn as much as you can about the business side of things. Do I think that language arts and some of this other stuff is, going to help you in power lines? No, it's not going to help you. I don't think. I think if you can work on your business skills, you work on your accounting skills, your math, those sort of things, your day in, day out, focus yourself around people that is motivated and driven. Try to, surround yourself with good quality people. If you hang out with people that's higher quality, maybe than what you are at the time. I ain't saying they're better quality. They're just a different level in life. That's going to help give you advantages too.
That's right.
Because they're going to teach and show you things that maybe you didn't think of.
Yeah, definitely.
And that goes for women, men, whatever. It's easy to do. Once you get to that level, you realize it wasn't that hard. It's just staying focused and driven.
Yeah.
Now, to become a lineman, we're talking about a different game here. So, to become a lineman, you just, when you get out of high school, you don't got to go to college. You ain't got to do all this stuff. You don't have to go to lineman school. You need to focus on getting your CDLs and then getting with, trying to get in with a company like PraXel or some of these other companies around town here or, out wherever, whatever state that is.
Yeah.
And just even if you get in as a groundman or a yard guy or just go in there and grip every day and show them what you're made of and show them how hard you can work and that, you're driven, you're focused on your succeeding in life, and they'll take you to greater places.
That's right.
It'll fall into place. Like my line career, I didn't make it because I was, the most wonderful lineman in the world or whatever the case was. It's because I worked hard and I worked hard every day, and I gave an honest day's worth of work for an honest day's worth of pay. And anybody ever worked with me or around me, they worked.
Yeah.
We worked hard.
Yeah.
And and so that's the biggest thing. And a lot of the problem now with the kids is the work ethics. They're unfortunately, most kids aren't showed good work. They're not, there's no work ethics in front of them for them to see how to work and how to grow and, be motivated. So now they're having to find that inner line inside of them to try to get out and do that stuff.
Yeah. I want to talk more about that in a minute, but I think what I really want to give people the chance to hear is how you became so driven. So let's talk about, because when I see you, every time I talk to you, it's productivity, it's drive. Let's keep pushing. And I think that is truly the center of PraXel. That's what makes it a special place in a lot of ways, and that speaks to a lot of different areas in the company and all that. And you're kind of the fuel to that to that drive. And so what I want to give people a chance to hear is how does a guy like you create a company that's honestly, this is like a true American story, of what you've done. So I want to give people a chance to hear that. So take us back a little bit, go back as far as you want, to kind of set the stage for what made Dylan Carpenter as we see him today.
Well, that's a long story. It's going to take a long time. As a young kid, I grew up in a trailer in Letterbox in Jackson County, and I had two very hardworking parents. My papa was a huge motivator in my life. His work ethics and everything else that come into play. He was very, very driven. The dude worked nonstop all the time. And then, my dad would get off work, go cut firewood or do this or that. My mom would try to do taxes in the evening. They was always just trying to figure out how to make extra money. And,
sure.
so I come from a family that works extremely hard all the way across. If you talk about carpenters from where I'm from, like they're motivated people. So now something they are a little scared of is risk, and entrepreneurship and that sort of thing. They did try to do some things, but they was always very timid to that.
Yeah.
But as a young man, I learned a lot of ethics from my mama and papa. My mama would take us to church, teach us the right from wrong, and God was coming back every night, and so we was scared to death. But it taught me like I better be ready at all times, right? And then working with my papa nonstop, that really helped me as a kid. And then when I was young, like I knew like, man, I know I'm gonna have to work for people. Like I know it's gonna happen, but I want to be my own boss one day. I want to make people be motivated. I want to make a great place to work. I want people to be excited to come here, and I want to push people to different limits than what they're used to. And I knew that. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I knew that at a young age. And then moving on forward in my life, I was 15. I was 15 years old, and me and my friend went around trying to find some yards to mow, and ended up finding a couple yards to mow, and we started mowing in a county, 2 counties over from us, in Corbin actually. And I would drive from Jackson County all the way to Corbin with no driver's license or nothing, and go mow yards, making $800 a week mowing one person's yard. It was huge, but and so then I knew, like, still being the young adult I was, or young kid I was, trying to figure out what to do with the money and do this and that. When I ended up buying a lawnmower, ended up paying it off, and ended up buying a few more tools, and just one thing after another. And I made a lot of mistakes, and tried to learn from them and try to grow from them. And the biggest thing is, like, you're going to make mistakes, but you gotta accept what you done, and you gotta figure out how not to do it again. That's right. And when I say mistakes, I ain't talking about like I went out and got DUIs or got arrested. You know what I mean? Right. I made mistakes financially, like I shouldn't have went and rented jet skis at the lake. You know what I mean? For me and my friends, I should have invested that money in towards something else. But I try to really push that in my kids, is having a vision of what are you going to do in your future, and it's really hard to make kids understand that.
Yeah, it is.
But coming, stepping over into the adult world, my wife was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, truthfully. In a lot of different ways. Definitely financially. She slowed my row on wanting to do things with my friends, and like spending money and stuff, because I was all about, we was all poor kids, but my friends definitely was, they wasn't out mowing yards, they wasn't doing this stuff, so it was like, well, let's go to the lake, I'll pay for the jet skis, or let's go do this, I'll pay for it, because you guys ain't get the money, but I want you guys to go with me. So she was a help, she definitely helped with that, but hey, you don't need to do this, but and she's a motivator too. Like Kristen is, like I said, she was the best thing ever happened to me. She is very well. She's motivated. She's a very strong individual, as you know, and she has a backbone. And what she says is what she means, and you always get the truth. You know, so that helped a lot.
So I don't want to interrupt you, but talk a little bit about how that relationship is. I mean, there's good days and bad days, obviously, running a company with your wife, but how have you guys made it work for, well, I mean, how many years, I don't think we established, and you've mentioned 7 years ago the idea of PraXel, but like what's the date, what's the year, that you would say, PraXel started this time? And then talk about a little bit about like what that's like running the company with Kristen.
Yeah, so it would have been 2017 that I was doing some work on some right-of-way, and I was supposed to get paid a big chunk of money, and I told Kristen, I remember standing at that golf course that we was cleaning up in North Carolina, and I told her, I was like, this is going to be our chance to start this power line company and all this stuff. Well, it ended up being, it took them a year to pay me.
Right.
But that was, so it all come together in 2017 is when I started putting the pieces together. Yeah. And then I went to California to try to hurry and make up for, all this stuff. And so we ended up so after 2017 on that cleanup project, it drained all my funds, like everything. And I had to pay the guys, and my main thing was, no matter what, I'm not going to leave you, him, anyone high and dry on funds. If I tell you I'm going to pay you, if I got to sell my house, that's what we'll do. And so, man, it got terribly rough. Like, I remember Kristen taking me up there and dropping me off to go to Cali, and, you know, me trying to figure out, like, how I'm going to pay my house payment next month.
Sure.
Because I literally took all my funds to fund this $150,000 project, you know, and they're supposed to pay sooner, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And so then go to California, and I stayed out there for a long time, and I made a lot of money, and that really jump-started this is what jump-started PraXel. You know, and I bring all those funds back, and that's how I started PraXel, was with my California funds. So funny story is, we moved in our house in 2012.
Okay.
My little boy was born in June of 2012. We moved in a few months after he was born. It was our first house. And we get in there, and we kind of got hoodooed on our house a little bit. The roof was supposed to be fixed. It leaked. I had to pay it. Didn't have, you know.
Yep.
I made, you know, I didn't make much money at the time. And then we ended up going from the roof being messed up to the air conditioner. It's going to summertime, you know, it's hot, but air conditioners quit working. Well, we had 3 units outside our house. So then I had to come up the money, try to fix the units. Well, come up the money, well, then the air conditioner, they still tear up after that.
Right.
All right, so the new price was $28,000 to replace all my air conditioners. They was all outdated. They all had to be replaced. So I went and bought a couple window units in a 5,200 square foot house, and we put window units in the house. And we lived that way. My wife lived that way with 2 little babies, eventually 2 babies, up until 2021. With window units, and it hotter than 3 blazes of hell in that house.
Yeah.
You know, and she would ask, she's like, when are we going to get the air conditioners? You know, when are we going to get these units? And I'm like, well, that $28,000 is a used bucket truck. You know, and I kept pushing it out. Finally, she's like, listen, there's enough money now. You're buying me an air conditioner.
Sounds to me like the script was flipped right there. Like she was saying, don't stop buying jet skis. Start investing in your company, and then you're like, I can't stop investing in my company to take care of you guys. You know.
Well, you know, and the real sacrifice was her and the kids, because they was the ones that was hot. I was living on the road.
That's right.
You know, until I come home, and I had the company for 2 years before I ever bought air conditioners for my house.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't believe that story, but it's you can ask her; she'll tell you.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's quite funny. But
so tell us about how it is working with her, and I don't think we could bribe her enough to get her to do an interview like this. So you may have to speak for her a little bit.
Yeah.
But
well, you know, it has its challenges. Anybody that works with their wife would probably tell you the same thing. We do really good about, you know, keeping work at work.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the biggest thing. People at the office is like, oh God, you know, it's like Royal Rumble in there, you know. And are you guys all right at home? We're like, yeah, we're good. Like we're really good about, you know, leaving work at work. So you know, Kristen is a conservative person, and I'm I want to go and grow, and you know, and so that's a challenge, and we're always, not always, but a lot of times we're bumping heads because she's always questioning, why am I doing this?
Sure.
She doesn't understand it, and then I have to, you know, explain to her till I'm blue in the face on why, and, you know, run the numbers. And she's a numbers person, so she wants to see everything laid out, and then what if this happens or that happens. So, like I said, she's really good for me.
Sure.
Because there's been times I'm like, yeah, let's go for it, you know, and she's like, no, let's back up. And then I'm like, thank God you did that. You know, I don't let her know that.
Yeah, that's right.
But, no, it's good. Like, Kristen 100% handles the internal part of our business on our office side with all the ladies and the men. And, she does really, really good job. I couldn't ask for anybody better. You know, there's been times she's like, oh, I wish I could just go back to hygiene. I'm like, well, I guess you could if you want to. And I'm like, please no. You know, yeah, because there's no way that, you know, PraXel would be what it is today without her being internal. Yeah. You know, because that's a big factor. Is like, you know, a lot of people struggle with is inside their businesses where, you know, a lot of times the bad stuff happens. You know, and her being, you know, having a partner in the business that has as much invested and loves it as much as you do, you know, it's just uncommon. It don't happen. So.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't have said it. You know, I couldn't explain that any better. Just from my perspective, you know, like seeing the way you guys work together, it's definitely like you're pushing us, pushing. She's the one saying, you know, like okay, let's make sure that we're all covered. You know, all these pieces you're kind of leaving behind unintentionally, right?
Yep.
Like how can we pick these up? And I think it's a really good
She's
working relationship from our perspective.
She's that voice in the back of my head says, no, we probably shouldn't do this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right, yeah.
So, and I've gotten a lot better about it. You know, I've tried to really focus on what is best for the company as far as, you know, day in, day out. And, you know, it's real easy to get spread out and you want to do so much stuff. And we're a very diverse company. Like, we do a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that I've had in the back of my head about doing, you know, and it's just like, man, don't, you know, she's always there to be like, let's not focus on that. Let's stay driven on what really does well.
Yeah.
And so it is nice to have her there for that too.
So I would imagine for your style of work and your leadership style, it's hard to trust a team, trust a person to kind of help you get to where you want to go. Talk a little bit about, because PraXel team-wise is growing every day. You know, we're adding to our team, we're adding to your decision-making team, guys around you and all that. Talk a little bit about what it's like building a team, what's important to you, and then maybe talk a little bit about what it's like trusting them to do their job.
Yeah, so, you know, that's a tough one because, you know, I've struggled with it. You know, I was really bad, especially the first part of the business, like the first 3 or 4 years. I was super bad about trying to do everything myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to delegate. And I still struggle with delegation, as you know. But because sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself than it is to try to explain it to somebody else or whatever the case is. But as far as like building trust with guys, man, and women, you know, that's extremely tough one. You know, because in this day and age, like a lot of people's just trying to figure out how to, you know, take them to the next level, and then they're skipping by you, going over here doing this, or they're going to try to do it themselves, or you know, showing them, you know, how to do it, and then they're trying to perform it themselves. That's a big thing in our industry is you'll show people the ropes, teach them everything, and then they want to sidestep you and do it all themselves. And I have no problem with people wanting to better themselves and do it. Right. I don't really want to be your stepping stone to do it.
Yeah.
There was no one that showed me, and I think that, you know, the tough times are good. You know, you shouldn't be allowed to bypass them.
Yeah.
Because it's going to actually probably make your business a lot better.
Right.
Now, as far as the trust goes, you know, it's just one of those things. When I interview these people for positions, I try to ask questions that typically most people probably wouldn't ask in an interview, you know, and I really pay attention to the detail stuff, and I try to.
Don't give away all your secrets.
Yeah,
you know
I try to focus on their character.
Yeah.
You know, I ask a lot of questions that sometimes you're like, well, that don't make sense. Why would he ask? Well, there's a reason behind I'm asking it, and I'll set the stage. I ain't gonna lie. You know, I ain't gonna say I play puppet or whatever the case is, but I set the stage a lot to try to make sure that I'm getting what, you know, they're supposed to be given, and I want to make sure that I have quality. I'm looking for guys and women that want their great grandchildren to work here. I'm trying to build a 100-year-old company, not hey, let's get rich and sell and move on. That's not what I'm looking for. I want this to be, you know, Josh Kopic, that your grandchildren work here and they can talk about you because you're over here on the wall, you know, and it has your history.
Yeah, right.
No, that's what I'm looking for. And if the people aren't interested in that, you know, even if your grandkids don't work here, but if you ain't interested in making this a lifelong career, then maybe it's not the place for you anyways. You know?
Yeah.
I want to invest in you as much as I want you to invest in the company. If not, I want to invest in you more. I want to make your life prosperous, and I want you to make plenty of money. I want you, you know, your goals here to just never end, and I want the sky's the limit. You know, as far as you want to take it, I'll be right beside of you. Let's go. Let's rock on. You know, and that's the people I'm looking for. And I look for motivated individuals I don't have to push and drive.
Right.
I want you to have inner motivation to where you're the lion in the jungle, you know? Yeah, you might have an elephant out here, it's bigger than you, but guess what? You're still the lion that eats the elephant, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of people I look for.
Yeah.
I look for the highly motivated individuals.
Yeah, that's good. So delegation, you mentioned something difficult for you to kind of do. What steps are you, if any, right now? I know it's kind of been a topic that we've had.
Yep.
What steps are you taking towards maybe getting better at that? Because it's going to be really important, especially we're at kind of a pivotal, I'd say, time in PraXel's life, right?
Yeah.
And so, and delegation is going to be a big piece of that. So what steps are you taking to kind of help resolve maybe the lack thereof that you've had in the past?
So our planner has really helped me. And it's something I struggle with, and I think everybody kind of struggles with a little bit. It's just being, taking the time to set your planner, build your weekly planner, and to see like what hours are you allocating for this or that. Okay, are you overwhelmed or are you not? Whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And so I just look at like, okay, what is consuming my energy that isn't making me much money, right? And I don't mean to push it on money, but money comes with growth and everything else that comes with that. But whatever's consuming most of my energy, what can I have Josh or, some of my other people do, that's maybe going to take time away, that I could be focused on something bigger.
Right. Yeah.
Because the more I can focus on the bigger picture, the more wealth and growth that I can bring to the rest of us.
Exactly right.
And so that it is a struggling point, because sometimes in your head you're like, well, what can they really do? I ain't really got nothing. Well, if you get to writing it down, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And then, like I said, the weekly task planner, that's a huge help. Nobody really likes to do it. No more than I like to go through everybody's, you know what I mean? But it helps you delegate the work where it needs to be at.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to spend the last few minutes we're talking here just a little bit about where we're headed. What's your vision for PraXel over the next? What's your 3-year vision? What's your 5-year, 10-year? However you want to handle that, and then talk a little bit. Maybe start here in 2025. I know we got an exciting year ahead of us. Yeah. Talk about some of that, maybe the work we got coming up that you're excited about. I know, and you may need to start back too. If PraXel, like foundationally, we were a storm chasing company, right? And then we've, over the last year and a half, closer to 2 years now, right, we've started moving into more of the blue sky stuff.
Right.
And so maybe that plays a part into 2025 and then beyond. So what's your kind of vision? We'll start in 2025 and then vision as we're going forward, what you see PraXel being.
Yeah, so, originally, like you said, when we started PraXel, it was a storm company. I knew, like, at the end of the day, this was like, so when I started PraXel, like the storms wasn't a popular thing like it is now. Like everybody and their brother's got a bucket truck and has a storm company. So back in the day, like when I first started and when I originally wanted to start, you only had a couple. I mean, you had a few, you had your OG storm chasers, but they had blue sky work, which is, your regular work also. So I knew, like in my head, like I'm not going to be a storm chaser. I am going to start by chasing the storms. It's my foot in the door, but I'm gonna drive into the blue sky market. That was overall go. But you couldn't really do nothing until you had that 3-year mark, so that your OSHA log and EMRs was, sitting good.
Yeah.
So now that's established, it's been a process. Like the blue sky world is 4 times harder than the storm chasing. Yeah. If all I did was storms, like I could rock and roll it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But to generate all these jobs and try to like grow the company in other areas and just all in general, I got to step over in the blue sky world, period. To build relationships with the power company is just everything. So, last year was a good year for PraXel. It's really we've done a lot of blue sky work as far as like matting, restoration, hydrovac, fiber work, edge work. But as far as doing like a lot of T&D and substations, that was something that we hadn't really done much of. We've done a few jobs here and there, but 24 was a good year. As you know, we stayed super busy. We done tons of civil work. We done some substation. We done a lot of T-line, some sub-transmission. We done. It was a pretty good year. Right. But now 25 is the year. Like as I've talked to everybody here, like 25 is going to be the year that. Basically, we're going to double in PraXel size. I think we got 6 substations lined up. We got tons of access to build. We got tons of hydro. We got 2 monster hydrovac contracts. It's tying the trucks up all year. We have 5 years worth of fiber we won. 5 years worth of vegetation we won. We have tons of distribution in the state of Kentucky with co-ops that you really don't see many union contractors in the state of Kentucky, especially working for co-ops. Right. It's happened, but it's far and in between. Yeah. We got tons of power company or transmission work that we're bidding, and it's in multiple, or not bidding, but we have been awarded multiple transmission projects across the country, and that's I'm talking from coast to coast, man. Like like we're fixing to be nationwide,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it is bidding work overseas and, you know, islands, and I'm getting tons of activity there. And, you know, we started a flagging division down in Florida, you know, in South Florida. Got the Keys work going on. I mean, there's work going to be everywhere. So 2025 it's a popping year, and I'm telling you right now, we're gonna double in our size of 2025. Like, it is the monster. This is the turning point of PraXel. Yeah. You know, so we're gonna stay positive. We're gonna be motivated. We're gonna be driven all year, and we're gonna keep pushing, and we're gonna keep finding the best assets that we can find to put in the company to protect it and make sure that we're growing in the right direction, and that's forward. That's for the company and the employees. You know, we're locking in a lot of things for our key employees that's been here for a while. You know, and then trying to grow the other ones into another market also. And so it's a growing year all the way across from the bottom to the top. Right.
Yeah, I agree. And what I love about PraXel is that we're young, but I think that plays to our advantage in a lot of ways because we're driven. I mean, if someone you know wants to talk to the owner, it can happen. It's a lot easier now than it will be in 3 to 5 years. So I think there's an advantage to PraXel right now. Then also too your vision for self-performing our work, and that way whenever you know people call us to do the work, they know we're the ones on site, we're the ones in charge, but we're also the ones doing all the work from start to finish, right? I think that's a huge selling point of us. So talk a little bit about that, why that's important, and maybe why is that a huge selling point for PraXel?
So, you know, the big issue has been all the jobs I've been on, ran, whatever the case is across the country. A big thing I've run into is like your subcontractors is always seems like they're always a disappointment one way or another. You know, it's always been a headache. You'll tell me you'll be there Wednesday, you don't show up till Friday. Well, now you postponed all my work because I built a schedule out, and now I got to revamp all my work, all my scheduling and everything else. So this way here we can control every inch of our market. So if I plan on having a hydrovac at your job Wednesday, guess what? The hydrovac's sitting there Tuesday night, ready to go. If we plan on doing access into that transmission site, access is sitting there ready to go, and you're not having to wait to go in there. You know, instead of this company saying, "Oh well, this other company added, you know, another 1,000, 2,000 feet of matting, and now we're tied up." We don't have to deal with that. Because we're going to, no matter what, we're going to make that happen. And so, being able to control that, as I've explained to many of our customers, is it's just another way. It's a growth strategy for us. Is being able to control each and every market around us to where that we can give our customers the best bang for the buck. Yeah,
I think a lot of people see, you know, we're working here, we're doing this, we're growing, and I think a lot of people may get the wrong impression that we're bragging about it or we're being arrogant. But what people don't understand is the logistic work, the operational work behind the scenes that it takes to get those things done, self-perform all that. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes on that people don't see. We're just proud of it, right? We're not bragging about it. We're not trying to put anybody else down. It's just, man, we've built a team, you know, that is capable, you know, of doing all these things. And so it's not a point, you know, that it comes across from you that's like, man, look at us. But at the same time, it's more about like, well, look at the team we've got, that we can do this. We are capable of this. And I think you've hired really well. Again, we're young, but we have guys on this that have 20, 30 years of experience, you know, that are running these jobs for us. So, you know, talk a little bit about maybe your leadership team on that. And then we'll kind of close the conversation with some
So I want to touch base
stuff
on what you said, though, about the the bragging sort of thing. So, you know, that's always kind of been a sensitive thing to me because I'm not the person that wants to toot my own horn or, you know, go out here and be boastful about this or that. But, you know, I'm not out here. I drive the same truck I drove when I was a lineman in 2018. You know what I mean? So, if we want to be boastful and brag about PraXel, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to let people know across the whole world where we're at, where we're standing, and what we're doing, you know. And we're going to market that, and we're going to push it. And if it concerns or hurts people's feelings or they don't like it, then, you know, they got bigger issues, you know. And we're obviously a threat to them for them to bother them, you know. So
that's exactly right. That's the right
point. I just want to touch on that a little bit. And, you know, I'm very proud of the people that work here, and I'm proud of the accomplishments, not just that, you know, I've been able to, you know, succeed in, but yourself and the rest of the team and our operations and our office and everything else. Like, I'm very proud of everybody that works here, and hell yeah, I'm going to brag on you.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, more companies should be doing that.
Yeah.
So, but now let's, back to your question. That was what?
Well, I was just, you kind of answered it, but it was more like, talk a little bit about your leadership team, like, because people will, the knock on PraXel's that we're young in a lot of ways, and we may not know how to build these things and that, but you built the team to be able to handle it, right? And we've proven that year after year after year, that we do what we say we're going to do, we pay who we say we're going to pay, and all those things, right? That's very important to you. And so you're not going to show up to a job, say you can do something that you can't do.
Right, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm a firm believer your name's there before you are. And that's something I've pushed into everybody that works here. And most of them's already live by that motto, so it's not an issue.
Right.
So it's kind of funny, all the years I've been in this trade, I have handpicked certain people. I'm like, man, that guy there, and, you know, I hired my old superintendent, and, you know, now he's operations guy, and this guy over here was a lineman for me and a foreman for me, and now he's in the superintendent role. I mean, it's just like, you know, my old safety guy, you know, that used to cuss me out while I was on a pole. Like, I'm like, man, he's a prick, but I'm going to hire that guy.
That's why I want working for
smart,
me.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I have, you know, the guy that gave me my first job in power lines, I only made $288 a week. But, you know, I hired him, you know, and he's like a legend around here. But I've tried to hire people that it's just what I would consider the best of the best, you know, and there's still a lot out there I would like to hire, you know, that I haven't I haven't got to work them in yet, but I have handpicked the people that we have that's in our operations, you know, and I've tried to surround us with the best quality that we can possibly get. And these guys, you know, out in the field, like you said, man, most of these guys, like my leadership is 20 plus years.
That's right.
I mean, it's just, I mean, that is what it is. I got some GS with a few less years than that, but they got like the experience, and they're being overseen by superintendents and operation managers, and, you know, they're being trained and, you know, formed into what, you know, they need to be the best that they can be. And so, I mean, we got the quality. And, and I can guarantee you this, it's like, you know, when we go to these, if we go to Storm, if we go to a blue sky project, whatever it is, whoever we're working for, they're going to have they're going to be super impressed with what we do.
That's right.
I mean, that's everywhere we go on Storms. They're like, man, you guys are so awesome. You're the best. You know, you do what you say you're going to do, and, you know, no issues with the billing. Everything's perfect. You know, your team's safe. They do what they're supposed to do. You got to show up when you're supposed to. You show up with the right amount of equipment. You show up with the guys that you got on your roster. There ain't no hoodoo bullshit like it comes with a lot of these companies. We do exactly what we say we're going to do. And, you know, if you don't like it and there's something you don't like, then let's talk about it and I'll fix it, you know, one way or another. If I have to eat crow, that's what I'll do, because like I said, your name is there before you are. And that's something I've tried to push in my kids' heads. Is like, the name you build now is a name that packs with you the rest of your life. You know, and so you've got to make sure that you set that first impression is a good one. And then you carry out that same impression for the rest of that, your relationship time with that person or with that company or whoever it is. And that goes for if I'm working for any, you know, back when I was a lineman, I worked for some of these other companies, you know. I treated their stuff just like how I'd like my stuff to be treated. I worked hard. I done exactly what they asked me to do, and I tried to make sure that when if I ever left there, that my name had a good reputation with it.
That's right.
Because this trade it's huge. It's ginormous. But it's so small at the same time.
No,
and
it's very tight-knit.
I mean, it's like a soap opera, and it travels super fast. And so what you do, it gets broadcasted across the country really quick. So the best thing to do is be honest, do what you say you're going to do, and give them a great quality product.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. I think we can wrap it up with what I want to hear. What I think I want people to hear from you is, when this is all said and done, all good things come to an end, right? At some point, at least your role here or whatever, maybe, I don't know, at some time, someday, there's going to come to an end your time here. What do you want that legacy to be? What do you want people, when they hear the name Dylan Carpenter, what do you want that legacy to be? And then PraXel, right now with you currently, and then what do you want it to be after you're no longer leading the company?
Yeah, I mean, so my ultimate goal is to set a platform for my kids, your kids, everyone that works here's kids to carry on to the next generation of PraXel. You know, I want to be able to sit on my front porch. I don't care about sitting in Florida. I don't care about sitting on a fancy island or on a yacht. I don't care about none of that. I care about sitting on my front porch and knowing that PraXel is still growing day in, day out with, you know, the younger generation, and that we've built this foundation for them and a legacy to go with it, to where they feel proud to work here and they want to protect it and they want to grow it.
That's right.
And that's what I'm after. You know, like I said, I'm not a money driven. I don't care. I'm perfectly content with the amount of money I pay myself a week right now, you know, which is probably less than most people make here, you know. So I just want to see the growth of it, and I want to see it go to the next level. And I want to, you know, I would love to be the next PAR or JW Dodado or some of those big companies that are their inspirations. You know, the Heidecker, the Michaels, you know, these are, you know, you talk about family-owned companies that's never sold, and, you know, like Michaels Power, you talk about Heidecker Wheat Lake, some great friends of ours, and they have grown a, you know, 100-year-old company, and just it's mind-blowing, and it's still generational, and they care about it the same as the man that started it, and that's what I want to pass on, and I want to carry, and I want everybody here to prosper.
Right. Yeah, I envision like a Hall of Fame, like you were saying earlier, with pictures of the guys that are leading the company right now, their pictures on the wall and all that stuff. I think that's pretty incredible. I think it just speaks to the fact that you're in it because you know it's bigger than you, and it's going to last well after you're here.
And we're going to change the community. You know, we already have, but we're going to change the community around, especially here locally. You know, it's going to affect other communities and other areas that we're setting foundations at in Illinois and New York and Florida and some of these other areas. So we're changing it in different areas. But, you know, right here where our heart is, in London and Jackson County and surrounding areas, Knox, Court, you know, all these areas, you know, I want kids to be able to come out of high school and be like, man, I want to go work for PraXel.
That's right.
You know? We go to these school functions and they're just like, man, I want to work for you one day. And I'm like, let's do it. You know what I mean? Let's, you know, and so I want kids to have something besides a factory or, you know, back in the day it was coal mines. You know, I remember getting out of high school trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? Or, you know, not really getting out of high school, but trying to go into my adult life and, like, what do I do? You know, and so it was, I just want to see everybody have something to look forward to when they get out of high school.
That's right.
And this is, you're going to make as much money doing this as you would, probably as most people would do being a doctor, you know? The opportunity is endless, you know? And I think that's a perfect way to kind of wrap it up. Your legacy, I foresee it being one that really, not that our community struggles, I think we're really blessed, but it's also really interesting that where we're located, headquartered wise, you know, it's going to leave a lasting impact, and people don't see that. It's really easy in a lot of ways to start companies in bigger cities because you have all the connections and support and all that stuff. But the kind of impact that PraXel is going to have in this area of the country is going to, I mean, it could really do a lot of good things, you know, for families. It could do a lot of good things for the businesses in the area, and I think that is a part of your vision that I think is unfortunately lost because not everybody's from here, but people that are here feel PraXel and they appreciate it. I do believe that we have a team that cares and loves PraXel as much as I do, and they cherish it. And you know, like, you know, where I grew up in Jackson County, is I got so many guys that work down there and women that they truly, like, they love it, you know, and that tickles me to death. I love being able to see when I drop my kids off and the people that used to drive, you know, the older vehicle, and the kids wore the Shacks. Now they're driving the Escalades and they got the Jordans. Like, that's what I love. Like, I love it more than I do seeing my own kids do it. You know what I mean? And so that's what drives me, is everybody around me and the growth of it. Taking it to the next level. That's definitely a unique factor of PraXel that is often not we don't get to talk about enough. But any other thoughts? Any other words of motivation? I know you're a big motivated guy, and anything out there you want to push? If not, we can kind of wrap it up. The biggest thing I got to say is, when you feel down, you don't feel like getting out of the bed, you don't feel like doing this and that. It's like you're not going nowhere. You know, you got to be inner motivated. You got to have that line, that dog in you.
Yeah.
And you got to want something different than
Yeah.
what you had today.
That's right.
And until you get that fire in you, it ain't going to happen because there ain't nobody going to do it for you.
That's right.
You know, you got to have that dog inside of you to get out of the bed at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever the case is, work around the clock, do what you got to do to take it to the next level.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got to think outside of just wealth. You got to think of other ways,
Yeah.
What's really important to you.
Yeah.
And that could be religion, it could be school, could be whatever, but you got to have that dog in you to do it.
That's right. Man, I appreciate you. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming on the show, and can't wait to have you back, talk about kind of the achievements and since last we talked, and just see where this thing goes, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.